Have you ever imagined a scene so surreal that it looks like the output of an adventure movie or a cartoon? What if I told you that, on a normal night, a burglar broke into a zoo, but he came out of there with only one loss, but while being chased by an army of birds and insects, which seem to have come straight out of a fantasy story? Looks like something from the Mad, isn't he? But this is exactly the story that I am going to tell you about today, and I assure you that it is more real than you might think. You've already been through this feeling it, at times. The nature of it seems to be on his side, or he or she decides to get revenge in some way. So, it is not that it came to pass at the San Diego Zoo was truly an epic battle, a clash between the crime and the true essence of the wild, starring as the character is that, until now, existed only in our imagination, or in the designs of early childhood. Stay with me until the very end, because that's all you're going to find out right now might surprise you in a way that is not what you expect. Picture the scene. A night in the wet, on a full moon is shining brightly, reflecting off the lake, the blackneck stilts, as the silence of the forest is broken by the crickets and the sounds of distant mountain lions. It is in this scene an almost mystical things start to happen. At the heart of the zoo and goes to the nursery, tropical climate, a place that seems to have come straight out of a tale of the old, while the wasps, moody, well known as a globular cluster in the Amazon, the keeper of secrets and the hierarchies that only those who know the life of the wild is able to understand it. They say that when a person with malicious intent is approaching, the wind changes, the parrots begin to speak out loud and you feel a sense of alert, take care of the environment. It's as if nature itself was gearing up for a showdown, in a sort of silent alert you that something is about to happen. And that's just in the mood for a thriller, that it all started to fall apart. A man with a lantern, with trembling hands, he entered the zoo at night. The intention is to steal something that is valuable, as is always the case in these instances. But what he doesn't know is that the universe had other plans. From that moment on, the story was turned into a mess of humor, irony, and a dose of adventure. It looks like the output of the script of the film. And it is precisely this mix of elements that makes this story so fascinating. Because, at the end of the day, what happened was not just a simple theft, it is a lesson of life, a proof of which, at times, to nature, to all their magic and mayhem, and is able to transform even an attempt of a felony in a real battle, in all winged insects, in an epic war between good and evil, surrounded by the birds and insects, and a pinch of humor that only people who live through that you can understand it. And, now, you must be wondering, how did all this get started? Who was this intruder? And, more importantly, what happened at the zoo at night? Stay with me, because this story is only beginning to get more and more interesting. As they delve deeper into this narrative, I can see that sometimes the truth is hidden in the fine detail. It is as if each track, each silent gesture, to take a greater meaning than it seems at a first glance. Perhaps, when you think about all of this, we can understand that a lot of times, the things that seem insignificant can be the key to find out what really happened that night to her. And, in spite of all these unanswered questions, there is a special beauty to tap into these secrets, trying to see beyond the obvious, looking for connections that are only visible to those who have the courage to look at it carefully and sensibly. If you feel a connection with this story, or something has awakened inside of you as you think about the possibilities that it brings with it, leave us a comment of what you touch in. You don't want anything with a lot of love. Your participation is what keeps you in this journey to live, because when you share your insights, what do you think or believe, we are in it together, building the space for reflection, and even if you are. In addition, if this story made you think about it, if it has aroused some curiosity, or sense, like in the video to help spread this message so more people can get involved in this trade openness. And if you want to continue to explore these topics with me, take advantage and subscribe to the channel. This video is a little deeper on this journey of discovery and connection. Every comment, every enjoy, it makes all the difference in our local community, because together, we can build up a network of understanding and hope. Right now, for us to continue to deepen this topic, there's something even more important what you need to understand. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the true transformation doesn't just happen on the surface, it is in our lives, which we often avoid seeing, hidden beneath layers of fear, the doubts, and the expectations that have been imposed on the course of life. This is a journey of self-discovery that is as a crossing of the sea is quiet. Each of the wave represents strength, and a question, and a belief in limited, that we are in charge. And in the sea, and the largest in the battle against the waves of the outside, but for the storm built, which we often see, with our own hands. These are the storms that cause us to doubt our worth. We believe that who you are is not enough, and that what we have is not good enough, that's the life that we've built is not good enough. But, in fact, All of this is a story that we learn how to repeat a course to becoming the standard, and a story that we believe to be the truth, when, in its essence, it is just an interpretation of a distorted reality. When we start to dive a little bit deeper, we realize that a lot of these restrictions are like the shadows that lurk in the mind, hidden behind the layers of shame, guilt, or fear of being seen as we are of the truth. And then, when you look at those shadows with courage and they begin to lose their power because of the light of consciousness, the reveal, and transform. At this moment, everything will change. Because we believe that we are much more than our own failures, our own insecurities, our own faults. We are a spirit that is pure, a force that is pressing, and that want to express themselves, to be free from these chains and invisible that we hold. And this freedom is born precisely in the recognition of the forgiveness we give to ourselves for everything that we believe to have been wrong, or not enough. When one is freed from these shackles, we can begin to see life in a different way, with a clarity that seemed to be impossible. But this clearly comes with a huge responsibility, to give each and every day, and who you want to be, how we want to interact with the world and with ourselves and others. It's a decision to daily place our true up to the expectations of others, to listen to what you really feel, not what we say, what we should feel. It is courage to confront our own shadow, to turn over the limits on the power of our aches and pains as well as tools for growth. And, in the process, we realize that we all live in, all of our experiences have been essential for us to get this far. Each and every scar, every tear, every moment of doubt, it was a key part of the jigsaw puzzle of human history. And it is these pieces, in love and understanding, we have constructed a new narrative, one that is more authentic, more in tune with who you really are. However, this journey is not linear. It is made up of highs and lows, discoveries, and moments of silence. It's like a dance, a subtle, between what we want and what we need to let go of. And, very often, the most difficult thing is the strength that comes from letting go of old concepts of identity, which seem to us to be essential, but it is now showing as an obstacle. The central question is, to what extent are you willing to strip down all the things that we've been taught, and that, in fact, it is not for us anymore? This is a question that challenges your courage, because it requires us to face the fear of the unknown. But it is precisely here that one begins to truly free, on the acceptance of the fact that all that we are is enough, just as we are, and at that moment, a gift. And this is where it comes to the big reveal. Our greatest strength lies in your authenticity, and the courage to be who you really are, without the mask, without the mask, without the mask. When we allow ourselves to this for authenticity, everything around you starts to change. The people, the environment, the opportunities, and all that is reflecting the truth inside you that, even so, it might be hidden behind a facade in order to live. And in that moment, we realize that we are like a seed which, when planted in the fertile ground of the truth, it begins to blossom in ways that you never imagined. In the light of what seemed to be far away, and now it shines within you, lighting up every dark corner, every doubt, every fear, and to show that the core of it is a never-ending source of love, courage, and hope. And, at this point, but the big question is, how much are you willing to walk this path and deepen this connection with our lives and make each of the resistance an opportunity for growth? Because, in truth, such a journey will require more than desire. It delivers a total commitment to the process of finding out who you really are and who we can become. And, in doing so, we realize that the biggest change comes from the inside to the outside, and the outside world is only a reflection of our inner transformation. So, it's really natural, is not the achievement of something that is external, but in the achievement of our heart, of our deepest truth. And then, when you open up this space, and everything lines up, everything is connected, and life is starting to flow in a way that is more light, more authentic, more real. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, because, at this moment, we can begin to understand what is the real difference is not a matter of effort, an external, but an internal revolution. Everything is clearer, more tangible, more real. It is as if we had spent years looking for the answers outside of ourselves, as if you were outside, you could fill in the void that is, in fact, could only be filled in by the Discovery House. And it often is a quiet, almost a whisper in the depths of my soul, that it requires us to listen more carefully, and with courage, and with a sincerity that sometimes it's hard to admit it. When you stop to think about it, we realize just how much of our decisions, of our emotions, by our standards, they were shaped by a kind of self-deception, in which the external power that would bring peace, happiness, and long-lasting. The quest for validation and approval, material, all of it seemed to fill a void in the current, but was never able to tap into the true essence of who we are. And, In the process of this movement is to look within, to accept our own faults, to embrace our vulnerability. We have opened a door to a freedom that is not dependent on circumstances, but rather a shift in mindset, an attitude of love and respect for who you really are. This is a journey of self-discovery. A lot of times, he reveals a truth that is at the same time liberating and terrifying. The only person who can truly change our reality, we are the same. It's a sense of power and responsibility, and at the same time, because once you understand that change begins on the inside, we sense that there is no room for blame or excuses. Every choice, every thought, every emotion in that it cultivates, builds, or destroys the peace. And with this understanding, it puts us in a position of great potential. It's a sacred responsibility to take care of your heart, cultivate positive thoughts, and nurture the emotions on the rise, instead of locking up. The true transformation is a delicate dance, and accept who you are right now, and you want it to evolve, always with patience and compassion. And, in the process, we have found that our greatest strength lies in our vulnerability, and the courage to look inward and acknowledge that we still have things to learn to let go, to forgive. Because, deep down, this is the most important journey of all things, a journey to the center of our being, where we find the peace that you've never been out there, but it's always been inside of us, waiting for the reconhecimos. In this connection, our lives, gives us to understand that we never did before, understand that all of what we are looking for out there, it is an attempt to fill a space that can only be filled with love, self-compassion, and forgiveness. And when you do that, everything is changed, everything lines up. Your life begins to flow with a light weight that seemed impossible before, because, in truth, the weight of which carregavamos, it was a resistance to one's own truth. When we accept who we are, with all our imperfections, we are liberated from the prison of the unseen, which, in fact, it was just an illusion created by the mind which has not yet understood the power of self-love. And this is the understanding. He gives us a power to be silent. Sure, you don't need external validation, because it is born out of the recognition that we are enough, just as you are. And in that moment, everything takes on a new meaning, a new color, a new song plays softly in the background of the heart, by reminding him of the fact that the greatest journey is the one you do on the inside, where we find our true selves, to our everlasting peace. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, because, when you get dunked in the deep, you start to realize that each and every layer that is revealed to you, it's an opportunity for us to free up even more, to leave behind what no longer serves us, to make room for the new, for that matter. And it's this journey of self-discovery never ends, because each discovery leads to another, as in an infinite loop of learning, of growth, of love. It is as if, by accepting our own imperfections, see a greater perfection, that which you do not reside in the absence of faults, but it is in our capacity to love, forgive, and move forward with courage and hope. And in the meantime, the universe conspires in favor of this change, it always offering you the signs, business meetings, a few moments of silence, they carried a message. That's all you need to do to change that is already inside of us. Just allow ourselves to feel, to listen, to trust in our own inner voice. And, in doing so, we realize that freedom is a daily choice, a decision to reconnect with what is most pure and true in the us, the same as that of the outside world to continue in the challenge. Because, deep down, it's all about alignment, harmony, between the way we think, feel, and act. When we get to this lineup, the life is no longer a battle, and it turns out to be a dance. It is an expression of who you really are. And in this dance, the more silent it is, it has the power to change everything around us, because when we change on the inside, the world changes around them, the accurate measurement of these feelings. And in that wake up, we have found that the greatest adventure in which we live is to be faithful to ourselves, to honor our inner selves, to follow the call of your heart, even if it leads us in ways that we still don't understand it completely. Because, in the end, it's the truth is that it's always been a question of love, of connection, and of the courage to be who you really are. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. And on this dive deeper, you start to realize that this whole journey of self-discovery that is not just outside, but it is an immersion to the quiet of our own essence, to the extent that many of the times we try to hide it, or deny it out of fear, insecurity, or by a society that insists on standardization. The truth is that behind the masks that we wear, there is a part of us that longs for freedom, for authenticity, and to be unafraid of what others might think of. And this, at times it seems so hard, it's actually one of the greatest acts of courage that we can be. It is not easy to give up what's comfortable, of which it is foreseeable that it gives us a sense of security, even though it is safe to do so, a prison, it is invisible. True freedom arises when we learn to listen to our hearts honest with ourselves, when we stop trying to please the world, and we will be pleased to ourselves, with all faults, doubts, and weaknesses that make up the whole. Once we realize this, we begin to see our own shadows, with a different perspective, without judgment, but with compassion. Because you understand, our shadow is the parts of us that we are still in need of the love and care that is a critical step in for the actual processing. Too often, we hide behind a facade of strength, success, perfection, believing that, thus we can avoid dealing with our own insecurities. But it is precisely because of this rivalry to find the key to your happiness. When we stand by what we feel, what we desire, and we begin to accept our own emotions, the most deep, and open up the space for the healing needs. This is the cure, this is the silent, oftentimes unseen by the eyes of the world, but it is the most powerful of all, as we reconnect with our essence, the purest, the one that never went away, it just was forgotten, or hidden by the layers of fear. This is a journey to reconnect. It also shows us that the true power is within us and in our ability to decide who you want to be, regardless of outside expectations. It's like an act of self-love, which is manifested in the courage to follow a path that a lot of times it's lonely, but it's closely aligned with our truth. And then we realize that the universe conspires to help those who respect each other, listen to, and who give themselves over to their own truth. There isn't a magic bullet, nor a ready-made formula, but there is a built to allow yourself to live a more conscious. The more you take, the more it is true. And with that provision, by itself, is already a big step to end up with the burden of a life that a lot of times it is charged to the expectations of others, to dream that you are not a us and desires that have been suppressed due to fear. Over the course of the journey, we have learned that the greatest gift that you can give to the world is our authenticity, because if we are true to ourselves, we inspire others to do the same. And so, it's a chain of light will spread, transformation, and hope. Decision-making to follow your heart, it is the seed of change, which, over time, it blooms into a reality that is aligned with who you really are. And then, even in moments of doubt, of uncertainty, there is a quiet strength that drives us to continue to explore our limits and find out what on earth are beings of love, and to be able to create a new narrative for our lives. And this narrative, if not written with honesty, courage, and faith, it is a masterpiece of absolute brilliance, and a story that is worth to be lived with intensity, because it is in our own truth, our greatest inheritance. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, and from that understanding, we can begin to realize that the quest for authenticity is not a task that never finishes, but it is a continuous journey of the self, the mind, and of the renewal. It is an invitation to journaling, to be free from the bonds that hold us to the need for approval, fear of being judged or rejected. And, at the same time, it is an opportunity for us to be the witnesses of our own growth. We can celebrate each small victory inner internal, that each moment of courage to be who we are to the truth. Because, deep down, that it is the greatest revolution that we may do to you, a revolution in domestic, which is reflected in the outside world, to the extent that we become more aware, more compassionate, and more aligned with our divine essence. With each step taken in this direction, it is a declaration of love to life, an affirmation that we are all here to live a full, true, and without a mask, without the mask, without the mask. And, in the process, we have found that the greatest power that exists is the one that comes from inside us. It cannot be stolen, it does not rely on external recognition, but one that blossoms when we allow ourselves to be who we really are. And it is precisely this freedom is the one that turns it all around you, which in turn transforms the way we see the world, how we relate to it, and, above all, how we relate with ourselves and others. So the real key here is to understand that it all begins with a choice, to allow, to love, to accept the truth, even when everything around you would seem to indicate otherwise. Because, in the end, the only opinion that truly matters is your own. And that feeling, when you align with love and authenticity, and have the power to change our reality. And it is precisely here that a lot of times we get lost in the mess that we believe that what other people think is who we are, or what our decision-making needs to be supported by an endorsement that is, in fact, it's never going to be enough. The freedom of a true born, when we learn how to debunk this need for external validation, as we come to understand that what is important is what we feel, it is our inner truth, one that often remains hidden beneath layers of fear, guilt, or self-doubt. And, in the process, you start to realize that the universe in some way, it reflects our willingness to open itself up to you if you allow yourself to be vulnerable and to love each other. When we accept the truth and the doors of self-discovery, opening up to a force that is not always possible to measure at the time, but that it leads to a kind of redemption for us, of ourselves, to return to the home that has always been on the inside. This is more than just a change in behavior. It is a revolution inside that manifests itself in the way we see the world, and the choices we make in our posture in the face of that challenge before you. The most fascinating part of it is that, to be free of these shackles unseen, we have begun to realize that everything around us becomes. Because you are, in essence, it is all a projection of our internal state. When we are in alignment with our truth, the people, the opportunities, the experiences that come to us, we seem to be more natural, more authentic, more connected to the things that you truly are. It was as if the universe is conspirous in favor of those who know it, who accepts it, for those who are not afraid to show their vulnerability. And, at this point, we realize that the biggest secret is out, and in the circumstances of the outside, but on the inside of us, the courage to face up to what you feel, and to take this sense, even if it goes against what we have been taught about, or against the one that seems safe and secure. Because of the security true is in alignment with our inner selves, the courage to look within and say, here it is, my place is here, my truth. On the basis of this awareness, we can begin to understand that our choices, no matter how simple they may seem, have an immense power. Each of you choose to love yourself, to allow yourself to make mistakes. The following is just a dream. You want to disconnect from the opinion that it is not on the rise. It's an affirmation that we are on the path to authenticity. And it's this authenticity that, in turn, is a bridge that connects our inner world to the outside, creating a new reality, one which reflects what we are all about real, without masks and illusions. And so, the journey is no longer a search for validation, and it turns out to be a celebration of who we really are, with all the details of our weaknesses and our strengths. Because, at the end, all we want is this, to make us feel full, which are recognized and best loved for ourselves, first and foremost. And when we do this, life is no longer a constant struggle for acceptance, and it becomes a natural expression of our deepest self, a dance of harmony and the sun, and of what we owe. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. You know, when we are truly in this connection, in our essence, we begin to realize that life is not something that happens by chance, but it's a direct result of what we carry inside of us. Every thought, every feeling, and every decision is like a seed that grows and manifests itself in the external world, and to shape our own reality. And, many times, in this connection, the interior reveals the aspects that were hidden in the locks, which prevent us from moving forward in the standards that we were to repeat the stories of the old ones. It's as if, when you dig out the layer of the surface, we find a beating heart, full of potential, courage, self-love. And there you have it, of course, that we are the creators of our history, and the architects of our history. There is no room for doubt, or for the victim's fate, because we understand that real change starts with the attitude of the look on the inside, and decide that, yes, we can change our reality by aligning our actions with our most pure. And in that moment, everything seemed to be distant. It becomes a possibility, that the interior becomes a fertile field for the manifestation of our dreams as the most important. And that is the greatest freedom we can win, to be who we really are, without the mask, without the mask, without the mask, and, therefore, to live a life that resonates with our inner selves more deeply. Says right there, I came to realize the truth. And, as long as this understanding grows deeper within ourselves, something that begins to unfold in a way that seemed impossible, it's almost as if a curtain was slowly lifted it up, exposing the fact that he was always there, hidden beneath layers of fear, doubts, and limitations. It is as if we were waking from a deep sleep, one that would make us to believe that life was a constant battle, a battle that in the limit, when in fact, it has been at our fingertips, just waiting for us in the first step, to see beyond the illusions that we create. At this point, we realize that our freedom is not what you earn on the outside, but on the ability to align with our actions, our thoughts, our emotions. Our essence is pure, that which was never the case, even though they tried to silence it or hide it. Every decision that we make on the basis of this new understanding, it's like a seed planted in the fertile soil of our souls, and able to grow and flourish in a way that I never imagined to be possible. And all of a sudden, it becomes clear that the real power is in our choice to follow this path of self-knowledge and the courage to put on the mask and to accept who we really are, with all your vulnerabilities and strengths. This revelation causes a transformation of a silent, almost invisible, but it's deep. It's going to be revealed in the way we see the world, and in our words, our gestures, the way in which we relate to the people, and with ourselves. It's a change that comes from within, an expansion of consciousness that causes us to realize that life is not a journey of obstacles, but the chance of reconnecting with our inner power to create a reality that reflects a truth that is more authentic. And, in the process, a sense of lightness enters the heart, as if a heavy burden was slowly taken away from our shores, leaving no room for genuine joy, the peace that comes from understanding that everything has always been available to us, even if at times we have forgotten about it. This realization makes us understand that the universe conspires to help those who have the courage to look in the mirror, honestly, to accept your shadow, and to celebrate all of their lights on, knowing that they are both part of the same whole. And the recognition of this truth, we are liberated from the prison of the invisible, the one that many a times we create within ourselves for fear of being truly seen. It's as if, when you open your eyes to this reality, it is a new dimension open up in front of our very eyes, a dimension where anything is possible, where dreams can become a reality if we have the courage to believe that you are worthy, you are capable of, that life is always offering new opportunities to rewrite history. And, if you make this choice, we have begun to realize that the greatest power lies in our mind and in our hearts and in our desire to be ourselves, to seek the truth without fear, and without fear of appearing vulnerable. Because, deep down, we are all humans, evolution, learning each and every day to love more, forgive more, to trust more in our own power. And, as long as the understanding is consolidated within us, a sense of gratitude starts to blossom, as a soft light that illuminates every dark corner of our soul, bringing peace, hope, and a sense that we are exactly where we need to be. That's the beauty of the awakening, realizing that life doesn't have to be a battle, but it is a celebration of the constant of the core closer to the truth, an invitation, a daily to be who we really are, and, therefore, to live a life that resonates with your soul. I now want to go more in depth on this subject. And in this world of possibilities opens up in front of us, it is certain that the greatest challenge is simply an illusion created by our mind. It's a barrier that can go through if we have the courage to look beyond what our physical eyes can see. Because, in the end, it all comes down to one decision: to believe is our light, even when everything around you seems dark, and have to trust that this is a movement of change in what we do for the inside of the echo in the outside world, lead us to a new reality, so subtle but powerful. And it is at this point that I realize just how much of our day is a dance of discovery, where every step takes us closer to our essence. It teaches us to love who we are, in fact, with all our flaws and qualities as well. It is as if each and every experience, no matter how hard it may seem, it is a mirror that reflects the things that you need to be seen, felt, and, above all, understand it with a bond. And when you understand it, that is left for us is to blame for any errors, losses, or through some tough times, and we see it all as an essential part of our growth, as an opportunity for us, and bring us closer to more and more of our Father. This understanding gives us the strength to move forward, with courage, with hope, and with the guarantee that each day is a new chance to start over, to do differently, to be more truthful. It was as if the universe, then, is to be passed to the plotting for the sake of those who have an open heart to learn and to grow and to love with no reservations. And then, in the flow of positive energy, it all takes on a new meaning, a new color, a new lease of life. The feeling that you are finally waking up to what really matters, so that it always has been, but for some reason you forget, or don't believe it. It's a journey back home, to the deepest place of our being, where the peace and the love of the truth, if you are located in one, silent and eternal well-being. And then, when we connect with the essence, we begin to realize that the true power of transformation lies in our willingness to open ourselves to the new, leaving the old patterns and embrace our authenticity, courage, and lightweight. Because, at bottom, all that we seek is such a genuine connection with our inner selves. This is a reminder that we are made of light, and that, by enabling us to shine forth and illuminate your way to those around us. And so, the journey becomes a dance, a continuous movement that never stops, because it is the wake-up is endless, and with each step taken in the way it reveals a new layer, and ourselves, a new opportunity to become full, to be free, to be truly happy. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, since I realize that the search for our inner selves is one of the greatest adventures you can embark on, a journey that takes courage, honesty, and a genuine desire to get to know beyond the surface. And, if you make this choice, we see that what really matters is not the achievements of the outside, but a deep connection with who we are of the truth, the love that dwells in our hearts by the light that will never go out. Because, in the end, it's the only truth that really matters to you, that you are a being of light, and capable of changing the world around us when we allow ourselves to be who we really are. Says right there, I came to realize the truth. And, if you make this choice, we see that what really matters is not the achievements of the outside, but a deep connection with who we are of the truth, the love that dwells in our hearts by the light that will never go out. Because, in the end, it's the only truth that really matters to you, that you are a being of light, and capable of changing the world around us when we allow ourselves to be who we really are. With this understanding, many of the times, no way, quiet, almost a whisper behind the scenes from our daily lives, when we least expect it, but it is in this connection that inner strength to move forward, even in the most difficult moments. It's as if, Suddenly, everything became clear, and I started to make sense, in a way, more light, more real. And so, we see that the trials that we are going through, and the questions that haunt us, and the insecurities that seem to be huge, in fact, are the only obstacles to a temporary that challenges you to look inside, to understand that our strength lies in our heart. This is the essence that we often forget to appreciate who we listen to the rush of day-to-day, in the endless search for approval or recognition to the outside, deep down, will never fully satisfy. But when we connect with that part of the more pure of us, it changes everything. It's as if a light inside, ignite it, light up the dark corners of one's soul, revealing the beauty it had always been there, hidden under the layers of doubt, fear, and expectations. And it is at this point that your life begins to gain a new dimension. Stop seeking validation from outside, and began to recognize our own validity of our authenticity. Each and every decision we take, every step we take, goes on to reflect that truly connected with who we really are. And so, we learn to rely more on your gut instinct, our intuition, the voice that comes from within, that is, it is suppressed by as much external noise. This is a journey of self-discovery, one that at times seems to be so quiet. It is in fact the most significant revolution in what we do. Because as we understand, it will also come to know the world around us, it makes us more aware of the subtleties, all the messages that the universe sends us, and to recognize that everything is connected. Each choice, each and every act of love, an act of forgiveness, you are the manifestations of the light that we have. You will only need to be awakened into the light of everything around us. And yet, too often, we forget that it is this light that is the core of a more pure, and they never went away, it was dormant for a while. And in that sleep, it is often the result of fear, anger, doubt, and of a society that insists on the need for us to wrap up in a way that moves us away from the truth. But that's the beauty of it all, is the ability to wake up at any moment, decide to reconnect with that core of love, and the light that set us apart. When we do that, everything around us is getting a new color, a new texture. Your life becomes an expression of the most authentic to who we really are, and that authenticity turns out to be our greatest strength. Because, at heart, no one is able to get us out of this in connection with our inner selves, not to ourselves, when we allow that fear to the expectations of others to speak louder. But, when you are choosing the authenticity of the people, he discovers that the world has, in some way, it will also respond to the reality of this fact, in supporting us in our journey of transformation. And, even in those darkest nights, when everything seems to come crashing down, this is the light that dwells within us is on you, ready to guide our steps, and to remind us of who we are, in fact. It's like a lighthouse that is quiet, which only needs to be carried out, to shine brightly, and illuminate the trails, and the invisible, which is the only one who truly seeks the essence, can't see it. And, in the process, we have learned that there is nothing more liberating than to accept it in our own light, without masks, without limitations, and without fear. Because, in doing so, we move to the weight of the trial, both the external, and discover the lightness of being authentic. This authenticity is a bridge that leads to the inside of this sacred space, where everything comes together, where your self-love, flowers, and peace becomes a constant companion. And so, we take the first step towards a life more in tune, more honest, more of us. And to this day, that at times seems to be so quiet, in fact, a great message, one that turns it all inside out to reveal the beauty that you are, in fact. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. Because, when you think about all of this, we realize that the connection with our inner selves is not a destination, but a path of continual daily practice of remembering who we are in addition to the masks that we wear. And, as we walk through this journey of self-discovery, we are confronted with a truth that a lot of times it is hidden beneath the layers of uncertainty. What is this light that will never abandon us? He is sleeping, for fear of shining too much. And then, when you decide to light up this fire inside, it changes everything. The world is beginning to reflect the power of authenticity, courage, and unconditional love. It's as if, when we stand in our truth, and in creating a bridge to connect with the universe, Atrasamo is exactly what you need to grow, to heal our wounds, and to expand our conscious awareness. Every moment of self-awareness is an opportunity for you to tell in this light. We strengthen our faith in our own power to change lives, including your own. Because, at the bottom of this journey, it is a dance between what we are and who we can become when we allow ourselves to love the truth and the authenticity of our larger paths. And, in doing so, we find ourselves able to create a place where hope, peace, and love blossoms from the inside to the outside, without the need for external validation, with the assurance that we are beings of light, who is eternally connected to the source of all life. Says right there, I came to realize the truth. And it is precisely in this connection, it all starts to make sense, in a way that is beyond words, in addition to the actions of the surface, which is often distract us from what really matters to you. When we allow that inner light to guide our decisions, our emotions, and our own choices, we can begin to understand that life is not a series of obstacles to be overcome, but an opportunity for constant growth, self-development, the discovery of who we really are. And it's silent, almost the subtle, like a whisper that grows stronger with each step that we take in the direction of us as genuine. Because, deep down, in the biggest battle that we fight against the things that limit us, that keeps us from looking our very essence, is pure, is our soul, without masks, without judgment. And this is a battle that is not against the outside world, but it's against the fear of what we have created in us, a shadow, that he would have us believe that we are not enough, that we don't deserve all the beauty that life has to offer. When we begin to understand that, our perspective will change. We see life as an opportunity to create, to transform, to evolve, even in the most difficult moments. It is because we understand that every challenge is a lesson, and a bridge that leads us to a deeper level of understanding. And, well, what seemed to be a heavy load, it becomes an opportunity to learn something new. It can strengthen our faith in ourselves and in life. This insight sets us free from the weight of the expectations of the external and reconnect with what really matters to you. Our truth, our lives, our ability to love and to be loved, to so true. And when that connection becomes stronger, one thing becomes clear. We are part of something much bigger. An invisible force that sustains all of us, that guides us, that reminds us that everything is part of a larger plan, even when we cannot see the full path. It's as if you're learning how to rely on their own journey, even if it appears to be at risk, or the full court. Because, really, these things are only the details of the temporary in the face of the enormity of what we can do when we give ourselves to our true essence. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. Because, when you think about it, we realize that the quest for meaning, for connection, for authenticity, and it is also a quest for freedom. The freedom to be who we truly are, without masks, or face masks that are imposed over the world. It's a freedom that comes from understanding that our choices shape our reality, and that with every decision, however small it may seem, it has the power to take us down a path that is in greater alignment with our inner selves. This freedom is a constant invitation for having the courage to let go of what is not used, leave the fear of being judged or rejected, and to embrace your authenticity, as it is our greatest strength. And, in doing so, we found out that we have been able to create a life that reflects our deepest truth, and a life whereas the love itself is the foundation, where inner peace is the result of a journey of acceptance and forgiveness. In the process, we found that the transformation begins within, and that every step taken in this direction, that is, a seed is planted in good soil and ready to bloom into something beautiful and true, long-lasting. This realization frees us from the illusion, and connects us with the divine essence that dwells in every one of us, is a spark of light that never goes out, even in the moments of greatest darkness. And it is precisely here, in this space of self-discovery and connection, and that we find the strength to move forward, with hope, with faith, and with an open heart to the endless possibilities that await you. And, when you look at this universe, and the inner is so vast, and so full of potential, and it is clear that the greatest strength is in our ability to transform the pain into a learning experience, fear, courage, doubt, and faith. Because, deep down, we are all beings of light in a constant state of evolution, sailing through the seas, unknown to you, but always take you back home to ourselves. And this is the back of the home. This is the discovery of who we are. In fact, that is what gives us the strength to move forward, even in the face of challenges. It's like a wake up to silent. It will grow step by step, to make sure the burning of what we are made of love, hope, and strength that never leaves you, even when everything seems to be crumbling around us. On the basis of this awareness, we learn to trust the most in your life, understand that every time, no matter how difficult it may be, it is an opportunity for us to reach even more of our lives, to be free from the weight of the past and embrace the present with gratitude and courage. And in the movement of shipping and reliable, you start to realize that life is a dance, attuned to the energies that you are in, complete each other, and turn to the time. It is here that we find the freedom, the peace that comes from within, and to know that we are exactly where we were meant to be, in perfect harmony with the flow of the universe. You are ready to create something new, something that reflects our soul as pure. Says right there, I came to realize the truth. And then, when we give ourselves to this dance as quiet, we can begin to understand that the whole of the resistance caragavamos was just a burden that prevent us from moving forward, and feel the natural rhythm of life pulsating inside of us. Each and every step that we take in the movement of the trust, It is like a breath deeper than an opening that sets us free from the fear of not knowing what comes next, because, in essence, already we know. We are being guided by a force major is invisible to the eye, but is present in every detail of our work. This is somehow the way in which we perceive our own limitations, because they realize that they are nothing more than the stories we tell ourselves and the barriers that we have created in an attempt to control everything around us. But when we let go of this illusion of control, that we have found for a freedom they've never been taught, a people who are born into the certainty that everything is perfect just the way it is, even though, at first glance, it seems in chaos or confusion. It's that time of the delivery that we can begin to understand the power of silence, the space between thoughts, between the actions, feelings, and emotions. Because, in the stillness, you will find the true essence of who we are, and in addition to that, the mind is trying to define or limit them. And it is this essence that has no boundaries, no limits, and she is pure energy and pure chance. In the life, and then, there would be a fight against time, against the circumstances, and against our own expectations, and it will be a journey of discovery and ongoing evolution, where every experience is a part of the big puzzle we are putting together, with courage and faith. In the game, Mounts, we realize that what we call chance is nothing more than a manifestation of the universe is responding to our vibration, the more subtle, for our intentions to be genuine. From this understanding, it changes everything. Because we understand that our reality is a reflection of what we believe, what we feel, what cheer. And then, when you switch to this vibration, change your scenery, we have changed the narrative we tell about ourselves. This is a far-reaching transformation. It is about having the courage to look inward, to face your own shadows, to see the stuff that's still in the hold, the more invisible it seems. But that courage which comes from an inner feeling that it's all part of the process of growth, of learning, of freedom. When we allow ourselves to feel everything that needs to be done without a trial, without a fight, you start to realize that life is a series of moments. They fit together perfectly, even though, at that moment, they seem disjointed or confusing. And it is this stream that we find the beauty in the journey, because it is not linear or predictable. It's the dance of the highs and lows, discoveries, and of the loss that take you to the yearnings of the moments in the dark. They prepare for these feelings. Every experience, no matter how challenging it may be, gives us an opportunity to learn something new about who we are. In fact, in addition to the mask, as well as the stories that we tell ourselves, of course. When you stop resisting and start accepting, we realize that everything we need is already within us, just waiting to be revealed to you at the right time. This finding, in this connection, our lives, give us strength to carry on with a more lightly on the planet, with authenticity, with the certainty that we are all part of a greater whole, to a symphony that never stops playing. And, at this pace, we must also rely on the time, in his infinite wisdom. Because that's all you have in your moment to happen. It's the time to flowering, time to reveal it. And when we have delivered with this understanding, we stop being slaves to our own expectations, and we now live with more gratitude for each and every step, every sign, every small detail is that it indicates to us that we are on the right track. Life is, after all, it is the opportunity to constantly wake up to what is really important, for us to reconnect with our inner selves, more pure, and find out that you are a being of light, in a universe of infinite possibilities. And when you understand it, the peace that comes into our companion, the most loyal, the one who does not abandon us, even in the most difficult times, why she is the proof that we are exactly where we were supposed to be, moving in the direction of who we really are. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. In the sense that it is all a matter of alignment, tune into it, to accept the truth more deeply. It leads us to think that too often we avoid. At what point are we really willing to give up all of our limiting beliefs, to break down what was dictated to them as the truth, and, thus, to make room for a new reality? This is a journey of self-knowledge, courage, yes, but it's also a tenderness, enormous as well as with ourselves. It is a process of the redemption of all of our experiences, of release, of all of the lines that we carry, often without realizing it. And, in doing so, we realize that life becomes a work of art, where every choice, every thought, every feeling, it's a touch that contributes to the beauty of the final table. There is no room for doubt or fear, because at this point, the whole thing fits together with a precision that only the soul knows. And then, when we look back, we can see that all of the difficulties, the obstacles, have become essential for us to get here, the more conscious, more empowered, more in line with who we really are. Each and every scar, every tear, every breath, lack of energy, and was a bridge to our continued growth, an opportunity to find out what is the real strength is born from within, and in connection with that which is eternal and unchanging. And that power gives us the courage to move forward even when the path seems unclear, or the dark and the light that you carry in your heart is bigger than any shadow that may arise. And so, we construct a new narrative, a story of courage, hope, and love itself, which constantly reminds us that we are the main characters of this journey, that can turn any setting into a space of possibilities is endless. And, in the face of all of this, our most important ally, and that is our own intuition, that little voice and subtle that he knows exactly what is best for you, even when your mind insists on the need to doubt. We learn, then, that the silence of the noise is external to the trust our own inner wisdom, and to walk more lightly on the planet, knowing that every step is a reflection of one's own true self. Because, deep down, we all have the seeds of an expanding universe, and ready to bloom at exactly the right time in the right way, at the right intensity. And then, when you make the connection deeper, we realize that life is not a search for something outside of us, but it is a rediscovery of a constant that has always been there, hidden beneath layers of fear and insecurity, which is now revealed in its essence, pure and bright. And so, we went with an open heart, knowing that every day is a new opportunity to arouse you even more to this, the fact that, at the bottom, it always has been inside of us. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. If you've come this far, it's because that's the message he spoke to you in some way. Few people are able to keep your attention until the very end, and there is surely something in the content that has touched your heart. He comments that, "I'm with you till the end." Because of this connection that we created for you, this is the very thing that makes everything else make sense of it. Take the chance to subscribe to the channel, so that we can continue to walk together. They led the way to the reflection and discovery. Each image is a great opportunity to dig deeper on this journey of self-discovery, and your support will make a world of difference, so that we can get together for this purpose. And this is a conversation you have added something. It leaves it like to step up for this message, because of the impact of her power, when more people have access to it. If you want to, there's still a lot more to come. There's a video right here on the side, which complements this subject. Click and keeps me there as well. Thus, we can explore these issues in a way that makes sense to anyone who seeks to understand and transform their own story. Stay with me, because this is the journey you are just beginning, and the next step could be just what you need to understand more about the connection so deep with you. Each and every moment here has been made to help you to get the look that you have always been there, inside you, waiting to be rediscovered. In this story, our story, this is the message that you have followed up to the end. It's all part of the awakening process it is to the individual, but also collective. So, stay with me, because the best is yet to come, and, at each step, we get closer to the heart, closer to the truth.